But it's happened actually numerous times. So it's, yeah, I'm using it as bargaining chips when I'm trying to persuade athletes.
Dude, even joking about bribes is like things not to do in sports broadcasting 101. Matthew, what are you thinking? Hello again and welcome back to some climbing news. So, World Climbing World Series in Prague, whatever the hell you want to call this thing for the last weekend, was a lot. By now I'm assuming if you care about comp climbing at all, you've seen a summary, and if you don't, well, you're not going to see one anyway. So rather than giving one, I'm going to straight up just do the same little segment that I did last time. The absolute most chostastic moments from Prague, starting with chostastic moment number 9, the entire freaking Prague series, and honestly the entire World Series calendar. 2 huge events back to back with basically zero time for the athletes to recover it's a choice. It's also just not good for anyone. It means athletes skip previous comps. It means the best don't perform as well as they would otherwise. Like, it means some people with injuries could potentially miss half a season. It's also bad for the viewers who don't get to watch their favorite climbers do their thing, and it ends up being exhausting to watch. Like, that was, I don't know what, like 5 hours of climbing in just the finals? It's insanity. You know, I get that financially it makes things easier in a way. If you're already in Europe and you're an Asian competitor, it's cheaper to fly between European countries as opposed to going all the way back home and coming back later. But at the same time, well, if these people were maybe paid a little more for their efforts, then, you know, that might not actually be an issue. What the hell do I know? Chostastic moment number 8, the awful placement of the zone in men's boulder number 4. Easiest to reach, flashed by every single competitor other than Mejdi Schalk and Do-Hyun Lee, and yet what followed were what looked like 2 incredibly difficult crux moves. A turnaround face the crowd sequence, which should have rewarded the zone in my opinion and would have changed the winners completely if it had been awarded, and a ridiculously impossible final throw to a crimp for the finish, which in my opinion should have been a fairly easy victory move for anyone able to get through the bottom. Speaking of zones, chostastic moment number 7. What are the rules? What are the rules? Thank you, cast of Always Sunny. And a question literally no one seems to freaking know the answer to. Miho Nonaka was kicked out of the finals after an appeal took this zone away from her. She responded by very publicly stating that she, at this point, literally has no idea what does or does not actually award a zone. Both of the climbers I'm showing here were rewarded zones. They each seemed to have as much control as Miho, who was not. And honestly, pretty simple. If the rules are so complicated and specific that they create confusion instead of clarity, then we have a problem. Which very nicely leads me to chostastic moment number 6, the only absolutely undefeated competitor in the whole series, math.
If Mejdi tops, Sorato needs to top.
And this is going to be complicated here with the maths. We're doing the maths behind the scenes. You do the maths.
I'll do the maths. Lee. If Mejdi tops, Sorato needs to top. No, then it's the points. Then you got to check the points. Quite a bit, because if with Mejdi...
You do the maths.
I'll do the maths. It's plus 10. If Mejdi didn't get the zone, he gets 1 attempt, 0.9. If Mejdi tops, 2 attempts.
Here with the maths.
Mejdi doesn't top.
You do the maths.
I'll do the maths. Lee. He gets 1 attempt, 0.9. Sorato needs to top. No, then it's the points. Then you got to do the maths. Quite a bit, because if with Mejdi... No, someone do the math.
We're doing the maths behind the scenes, but let's see.
Next chostastic moment number 5, Osh Mackenzie, going from the absolute top of the world just 2 medals ago to really needing to spend some time in Pete Whitaker's cellar. As wrong as that sounds, it's always funny to me as someone who just can't crack climb to save his life that there are people out there who are infinitely stronger than I am, probably ever will be at face climbing, who are just as bad at crack as me. For anyone that wants something to watch while they poop or take a lunch break right here, video of the same thing that will be happening to Osh, happening to Shauna Coxey from 8 years ago.
Never been upside down in a crack before?
Chostastic moment number 4, Satone Yoshida's little slip, the absolute start of the route, meant that everything he did afterwards straight up just, it didn't count. And this is chostastic not because of Satone's mistake, because that's, well, it's not exactly his fault, and also, I mean, that really freaking sucks. But rather the judges completely failed to stop him at all and just Let him keep climbing instead. Could have conserved energy, could have conserved skin, could have done a lot of things.
Luckily, he didn't fall.
Phew, that could have been real drama then if he'd gone off that first hold.
Chastastic moment number 3, Max Berton's sudden realization that he's being watched. And honestly, I freaking feel you, dude. I mean, I got people watching me right now, but at least I can't see that happening. I'd probably be freaking out otherwise. I get real scared in public settings. Chastastic moment number 2. There really is nothing quite like devoting your life to the pursuit of excellence, giving your time, your mind, your body, your very soul to this sport, and having all that effort, all that hard work rewarded with a fucking $5 water bottle. This, very honestly, should be the minimum thing that you receive for even participating in a qualifiers round, not the thing given to every single person who manages to hit the podium. Next time, just change the freaking thing to an avocado and be done with it.
Avocado! Thanks!
And finally, Chastastic moment number 1. Who the fuck is Sung Soo? Apparently not even World Climbing knows. I know that racist stereotypes exist, but I really didn't think I'd see the day where Sung Soo and Do Hyun would be confused from one another, especially when Sung Soo didn't even compete. Genuinely, it's awful. It's kind of hilarious. I really don't think the stream suddenly becoming rugby from the Kekchao event could be topped, but World Climbing really has outdone themselves, haven't they? Good freaking lord. Okay, that about does it. And given that about does it, I think it's about time we move on and talk about the winners here. Just gonna keep things super quick, starting with the women's podium in bouldering. Yutong Zhang, a fresh surprise for pretty much everyone. Her first ever finals appearance, also an extremely well-deserved first ever podium. She looked strong as hell, and I really hope to see more from her in the upcoming comps. Second place, of course, to Big E Dog. Possibly this time, Big E Bird.
Yes!
Chick's got wings, dude. Such a gigantic missed moment opportunity for the entire marketing department at Red Bull. But, well, now you guys know what to do, I guess. And of course, first place to the one and only Annie Lockoff McGee Sanders with her third ever bouldering gold medal. Amazing stuff. Men's podium in bouldering. Big stuff, historic stuff. Mejdi Schalk doing his thing, taking up the bronze medal. Do Hyun Lee, who is basically the only person that Matt Groom calls by his last name, because, you know, I don't know. But, kind of weird. Possibly the same reason he was mistaken for Sung Soo? Seriously, who the fuck is Sung Soo? And Sorato Anraku, who's definitely not Sung Soo, I'm pretty sure, with the gold medal and actually making freaking history. Literal goddamn history. The guy became the first man to ever win 4 gold medals in a row. Just absolutely incredible stuff from a dude that looks absolutely unbeatable. That's Sorato Anraku, not Sung Soo Lee. Apparently that's confusing. Off we go to the Lead World Cup that happened immediately after bouldering. All that fun stuff. 0 rest for the climbers meant we didn't get to see the likes of Big E Dog or Osh competing because, yeah, that's just too much. Again, the women, first podiums for the incredible Zelia Avezu, having an amazing start to her season. Let's not forget she's already won gold in bouldering. Second place to Chaehyun Seo, looking as solid as ever. Just incredible stuff from, what is that, Sung Soo? No, can't be, right? Can someone at World Climbing just let me know? I think I'm confusing someone here. Annie Sanders.
Unbelievable stuff from her.
Historic, nonchalant, just like, yeah, I got 2, what up? 1 gold. One of the first to ever successfully pull off a double-double, only matched by Sandrine Levitt and Janja Garnbret, who has done it 4 freaking times, because of course she has. Massive congrats to Annie Sanders winning gold in both events. Used the rest she got from skipping last week's comp to pretty good effect. Now on to the men's final, and awesome stuff to see Jakob Schubert back on the podium for yet another medal. It was honestly awesome to see the old guard competing in this comp at Amandra in front of a home crowd. Jakob, as I said before, and Jan Kim in the women's, who is an absolute legend. Personally, someone I legitimately studied when I started climbing years and years ago. Flawless technique. Her I definitely won't be mistaking for Sung Soo Lee. Although, I think Sung Soo might have won silver. No. That was Neo Suzuki. Right, my bad. Is this joke getting about as old as World Climbing's inability to do anything correctly? Because that's how it feels for me. Neo Suzuki being awesome as always at lead climbing, looked incredibly solid throughout, and was only topped by one mother of a dark horse, Indonesia's Putra Tri Ramadhani, making sure the entire world of climbing definitively understands that Indonesia is not just a nation of speed climbers, but one that is very, very, very serious about climbing in general. I mean, holy shit, dude. He looked incredibly strong. It was like watching Yanya on bibliography, just so very clearly below his limit. Congratulations to all of the winners. Congrats to all who participated, who made history. I'm done talking about comps now. Let's talk about rock. So, some of you guys wanted my thoughts on the Elias Iagnemma video, so here goes. I deliver, as promised. You guys know how, like, in 1995, Alanis Morissette put out Ironic as her 4th single of her 3rd album, Jagged Little Pill. Do you guys remember that? You guys remember how in that song there's like a bunch of stuff that she calls ironic? You know, like rain on your wedding day, a free ride when you're already there. Good advice that you just can't take. Who would have thought? It figures. You know, stuff like that. Yeah. Man, like honestly, I think about that song for entirely too long, at least once a week, because everyone has always just kind of, you know, laughed and said like, oh dude, Alanis, such an idiot. None of those things are actually ironic. She doesn't actually even know what irony means, what it's supposed to be. But the truth is, you know what actually is ironic? What's actually ironic is having a song called Ironic that it turns out doesn't have a single thing in it that is ironic, which just results in this spiral where I can't fucking figure out, like, did Alanis Morissette have no idea what irony is and she just wrote a fun song, or is she actually a genius who fooled all of the haters with an ironic song about unironic things labeled as ironic? You know what I mean? Oh, you thought I was going to talk about Exodia instead? I talked about something completely different? Well, now you know how that video made me feel. It's wild. In a video about the proposed hardest boulder in the entire world, the most interesting thing was watching this dude straight up blow past the stop sign. No beta or hold explanations in a place where you expect them. Maybe we should consult expert Alanis Morissette to see what she thinks. Look, I have questions. One, I will not understand where the logic is of freaking speeding up the first half of the ascent if you're then gonna just show the entirety of the knee bar rest. It's an incredibly strange and honestly stupid choice. Almost like hiring a company that doesn't specialize in bouldering and climbing films was not the smartest thing to do. La Sportiva. And yet, that's what they did anyways. I don't get it. World Climbing insists on hiring non-climbing production teams because apparently climbing production teams don't exist on their own. Sportiva does this with this video. No one is goddamn happy. In what world does it make sense to hire someone who has no idea what they're even doing or what is even happening within climbing or why this is even important? How is that a good idea? I also just don't understand what the hell the point is of starting the boulder with your shirt on and then taking the damn thing off while you're resting. Performative? Probably. Stupid? In my opinion, kinda. Yeah. We don't even get to see how actually difficult any of it is supposed to really be. Now I'm feeling kind of sick, so I'm going to breeze through these next points and I'm going to be even more abrasive than usual because, to be honest, I'm kind of over it. So look, anyone legitimately calling dabs for the chalk bag is a dumbass. Anyone who says, but when Sung Soo's shirt touched the pad on Burden, everyone, shut up. You don't understand what a dab is. You don't. You clearly never understood that what was being questioned during the Burden dab was whether his butt lightly brushed the pad, not the shirt. His butt does, by the way, ever so like lightly brush the pad, hence the dab. Had it only been the shirt, no dab. Easy. Next. I am no armchair grader, as half of you know I am sitting on a stool, but I will say this. Plug in 8B plus V14 into 8C plus V16 into Darth Grader, and the thing vomits out soft 9A plus V18. Given that the damn thing doesn't let you factor in rests, and we're talking incredibly good knee bar rests where this dude can just chill for an extended amount of time with his hands in the air, waving like you just don't care, I think it's likely that this boulder isn't going to keep its proposed grade. Unless the rest is far worse than we think, or the sections are much harder than Elias realizes, or if the 8C plus grade that he's given the second section takes into account how tired you are after having done the first bit, though that's kind of a long shot. Either way, I do believe that Elias is 100% in the right in calling this thing the absolute hardest thing that he has ever done. I do think that there is a high chance that this thing is the hardest boulder in the world right now, but whether that difficulty is enough to be called 9A+ is questionable. And again, it takes a ton of confidence and serious stones to put your name next to a grade like that. Like, the amount of speculation the dude has had to endure is insane. Not to mention the ridicule he would probably receive if this gets downgraded, no matter what the second Ascensionist says, if that's the case. Which maybe is why, like, we didn't get all these, like, beta stuffs in the video. I don't know. He didn't make the video, so I don't feel bad about calling it god-awful. Very likely the hardest boulder in the entire world, and instead of explanations about what makes it as hard as it is, we get him teaching children how to climb. Like, you know, it's cool that he does that, but also, like, not the right choice, man. Like, not at all. Not even a little bit. So fucking dumb. Jesus. Okay, got a little bit of bouldering out of my system. Now we gotta talk about basically the opposite. Multi-pitch adventure trad. Adventure trad, multi-pitch, trad, multi-pitch adventure, whatever order you want to put those words in that makes the most sense to you. I don't care. Bolt wars have broken out on one of the routes of Yosemite's Half Dome, or are very close to breaking out on one of the routes of Yosemite's Half Dome. If you're a sucker for tea the way I am, this is one juicy, I guess, like, bag of dried leaves? Snake Dike. It's a route on Half Dome, an 8-pitch 5.7 that is widely considered an ultra classic, but which does have some pretty serious caveats in that it is extremely run out. 5.7R, which, if you're not familiar with the movie rating system found throughout the United States, people have been giving movie ratings for stuff depending on the danger that route represents and independent of difficulty. PG-13 means you could get hurt if you fall. R means you could get very, very seriously hurt if you fall. And X basically means if you fall, you will probably die. So, Snake Dike was first climbed back in '65 by a 3-person party consisting of various Yosemite Stone Masters, legends in their own right, including Eric Beck, Jim Bredwell, and Chris Fredericks. The history of the route, kind of interesting. Eric had been scoping out a crack on Half Dome that turned out to be entirely too hard and which would eventually be sent by Dale Bard 10 years later as On the Edge, 511B, also R-rated. As the trio made their way back to camp, they spotted a series of dikes running up Half Dome. Long story short, they decided to see what was what. They only had about 12 bolts because, well, bolts are expensive, and we're talking old school dirtbaggers with, like, no money, right? Kind of tracks. Also, seeing as how they were literally venturing up into the absolute unknown, basically did everything they could to conserve as many bolts as they could, just in case, which to their surprise turned out to be basically most of them, because they really didn't need them because the route was easy for them. They left an 8-pitch route with single belay bolts and just 2 protection bolts in total. A few days later, Eric's friend Steve Roper made his way up Snake Dike and, after being asked by Eric himself to add some more bolts, did so, with like a serious emphasis on the word some. Steve Roper doubled all the belay bolts and added a single protection bolt on the run-out pitches. That's basically it. So since then, Snake Dike has been climbed thousands upon thousands of times, probably. It's also seen quite a few accidents, recently and notably those of John Mark Toth, who, after going off-route, took a 90-foot fall that fractured his ankle, and Anna Parsons, who also found herself off-route while on the 3rd pitch and who fell about 80 feet, ultimately breaking nearly every single bone in her body and needing to have her leg amputated. That particular accident, as well as Eric Beck himself, the first Ascensionist, who has been consistently calling to add bolts to the route throughout the years, sparked a pretty big debate about 4 years ago or so. That particular debate didn't really go super far. It's not until this past week that Yosemite guidebook author Eric Sloan took it upon himself to Retrobolt Snake Dike that all the arguments and debating really came to a head. So, here's what I know. What Eric Beck wanted, according to this article from Climbing Magazine, which you should totally check out and which is linked below and which provides far more detail than I will, was for someone to add about 4 to 5 protection bolts on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th pitches. What Eric Sloan has done has been to basically turn this thing into a sport climb. Dude added 12 bolts to one of the pitches as far as I understand it, and just kept doing so for even more of them. So, the argument that I keep hearing for the retro bolting comes from people saying that people have gotten hurt, there's no reason why things should be dangerous when they don't have to be, and that not wanting to retrobolt is basically just gatekeeping and entitlement, and if you really want to, you could always just not clip the bolts anyway. My stance, as almost exclusively a boulderer who has only ever trad climbed like once or twice, is to call bullshit. Is this gatekeeping? Yes, absolutely, it is gatekeeping, but honestly, gatekeeping is not always a bad thing. 5.7 is really not that hard. Old school 5.7, which is probably closer to like new school 5.9, still not that hard. It doesn't take that much of an effort to get good enough to feel comfortable on slab like that. And I personally think, yeah, certain things should be kept scary and dangerous and risky. And it should be on us climbers to mitigate that risk and understand the situations that we put ourselves into. Getting good enough to where you're confident enough to send a route like Snake Dike should feel like an achievement. It should be something that you train for and that you try and get better at in order to accomplish. Having 1,000 bolts that you just don't clip into kind of ruins that, honestly. It turns your achievement into nothing more than just like a crappy contrivance. And as far as like whether or not we should listen to a first ascensionist, I mean, I think that pointing out that we sometimes do and sometimes don't isn't a particularly clever gotcha, because this, like most things in life, isn't a black and white situation. Snake Dike was sent 60 years ago. Yes, Eric Beck has always been of the opinion that it should be retrobolted, to a lesser extent than it has for sure, but there is also, in this case, about 60 years of hundreds, possibly even thousands of ascents and experiences that kind of dilute his opinion. It's like how it doesn't really ultimately matter that Ray Bradbury meant for Fahrenheit 451 to be about how TV was destroying interest in literature, but the overwhelming way that that book is read is all about like censorship and government overreach or control or what have you. After a certain point, I mean, you can almost say that Ray Bradbury himself is wrong, even though he's the one that wrote the thing in the first place. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that Eric Beck is wrong. Actually, I think that what he proposed is honestly probably fine enough to make things a little safer, but still conserve the adventurous spirit of the route. I'm just saying that I don't think that we always need to hold his or any other First Ascensionist's voice as the ultimate authority every single time, or none of the time. What I'm saying is that arguing that we are inconsistent in how much we listen to FAers isn't even an argument for or against retrobolting in this situation or in any situation, I think. I've just been hearing it all over the place and it's so stupid. It literally adds nothing. And as for the accidents, but I feel horrific for the people who got hurt. I would never want to see anyone get hurt. But ultimately, look, I'm a boulderer. I've climbed up to 7C+ outdoors. I have been doing this for 10 years. And yet I wouldn't feel comfortable heading over to Snake Dike on my own or with one of my bouldering buddies. Is it below my limit? Yes. Could I probably do the moves in my sleep? I mean, I think so. I would hope so. Am I aware of my complete and total inexperience on climbs of that nature? And would I prefer to spend a whole lot of time working on much less dangerous shit where I could figure out just how comfortable I am on Yosemite granite slabs before moving on to something that could potentially kill me? Yes, 100%. But ultimately, if I were to ignore those instincts and I were to go to Snake Dike like tomorrow, and I were to get on it without any skills needed for trad multi-pitch, like, you know, route finding, just decided to practically go soloing at that point, and I were to discover that I was way more out of my element than even like Donnie from Big Lebowski. I mean, I'm the only one at that point to blame in that situation, because ultimately I'm the one that put myself there. So, like, yeah, it's true that things should be as safe as possible, but we also can't forget the importance of something like personal accountability, right? Like the two prominent accidents that I just named, both of those happened while the people involved were completely off route trying to navigate terrain that they were just straight up not skilled enough to do. But I don't know, man, that's just, it's my opinion. As always, and especially in this case, taking into consideration that this is not at all a discipline that I'm personally familiar with, I very much might be wrong. I'm more than open to having my mind changed. I just kind of took what I believe to be true from bouldering and kind of just threw it on top of this issue. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. People are all up in arms getting ready to go chop the bolts that Eric Sloan put in. So hopefully if that does become a thing, they do so by minimizing the impact on the rock itself, because that stuff can get really messy. I don't know. I'll keep you guys as updated as I can. But ultimately, I'd love to know what everyone's opinions are. All right, next we got Marco Muller starting what's going to be a series of downgrades in the upcoming segments. Dude just sent Curveball, one of the lesser known 8C plus V16 boulder problems in Val Bavona, FA'd by Giuliano Cameroni. I can't fucking do, whatever. I keep saying his name with like an American accent, it's weird. Giuliano Cameroni, repeated by Dave Graham. I think this thing is pretty freaking cool. It's super technical, super toe hooky, absolute opposite of like most boulders that we usually see at the 8C plus grade, which tend to be like really thuggy and overhung. I know it won't inspire a lot of people, but I think it's rad. Apparently it was rad enough for Marco to give this thing some goes, and it looks like he surprised himself with a pretty fast send, hence the downgrade. Dude says he's not particularly sure how to differentiate between 8C and 8C plus, and that this went down faster than his only other 8C plus, Story of Two Worlds, so he seemed hesitant to take the full 16 points. More power to Marco for the honesty. It's kind of cool. Big congrats. Awesome stuff for him to do that boulder, man. I know that people aren't going to think that it's awesome, but I don't know. I think it's just rad, man. It's super fucking cool. Okay, now we got, well, not a downgrade segment just yet, more just a send of a classic, but a pretty big deal at that. Katie Lambs just casually, or at least seemingly casually, has found herself, as she says, sucked into a project instead of vacation bouldering, which is exactly what happens every single time I tell myself I'm going to have a volume day. Katie, I concur. I don't know what happens, but it's like I black out or something, and then next thing you know, bang, I found myself working stuff at my limit. This is exactly what has happened to Katie, apparently, on the Singularity, probably one of Squamish's more famous 8C V15 boulders, and while she was unable to send, not actually sure if she's still in Squamish, but she seems to have possibly left already, she did at least get a consolation send of the boulder 7, which is an 8B plus V14. What a life! Like, seriously, your consolation boulder is harder than something that like 99.99999% of the climbing population will ever be able to climb. It's gotta be kind of nice. 7's a pretty cool boulder, FA'd by Lucas Uchida at 8C, but subsequently downgraded by everyone who has ever repeated it, including the likes of Hamish MacArthur, Ethan Salvo, Keenan Takashi, and Zach Gala. Dope sort of sloper line into a really interesting erect compression situation at the top, of which lies apparently just like a ton of blood.
Why is there so much blood up here?
Yeah, I don't know, Katie. I don't know. Maybe Noah Wheeler's been traipsing around Squamish and just didn't tell anyone. I don't know what could have happened up there. Let's move on. Next, we got Allison Vest doing her thing. She just sent a boulder called Ebony and Ivory, which she has been working, as far as I can understand it, since last fall. This is the second ascent of this boulder after John Cohey dedicated around 50 sessions to it and ultimately sent in 2021. Now, John originally proposed 8C V15 as the grade, and it seems that Allison disagrees. Yeah, we got a first downgrade. And it won't be the only, or second downgrade, because I already did the first one. Anyways, it won't be the only one this episode either. Clearly, Jesus. AB plus V14, according to Allison Vest, who seems to believe that the boulder just wasn't that hard, or not hard enough to merit that grade. One just teeny tiny little caveat here, though. Apparently, this thing is very much in Allison's style, so person shrugging emoji? Yeah, I don't know, man. We know that style really does matter a ton. It can really affect how hard someone thinks that something is. I mean, you know, classic examples, Daniel Woods on Hypnotized Minds, Noah Wheeler on Burden of Dreams. Is this thing actually potentially truly Allison's first ever 8C V15? She doesn't seem to think so. I'd like to think that she's wrong, but yeah, realistically, I think only time will tell at this point. She's definitely more than strong enough to send harder stuff, so I guess we'll see, man. I'm just kind of sitting here waiting for her to do her first 8C, which you may have already done, just doesn't realize it. Okay, next, we got another couple sends from Michaela Kiersch. First and foremost, this right here is a photo of Giuliano Cameroni on a failed flash attempt of a climb called Power of Zero. I don't have a photo of Michaela on this thing as of when I was writing this segment. She has the story where she says that she did it. She also says that it's 8B+, maybe 8B, and yet it seems Jules has stated that it was originally proposed at 8C. So from an original 15 down 1 or 2 grades, 13, 14, 8C, downgrades from Michaela and Allison. Ladies keeping things sandbagged. I love it. Congratulations to both of them, and especially at this point to Michaela Kiersch, who can't seem to stop sending. She's done Dulcifer Low 8A plus V12 and Scary Christmas 8A V11, all within like 4 days of each other. Couple that with downgraded 8C, and that's That's not a bad start to Alpine bouldering season. Let's keep this thing going. All right, continuing with the whole thing of ladies just absolutely popping off. We got more stuff. I mean, people keep sending things. This video is going to be so ridiculously long. I'm gonna have to, I don't know. And Molly Thompson-Smith, she just had her first visit to one of the old classic UK limestone choss piles, the Wave. She just managed to send extra long wave, which, as you can probably gather from the name, is a long ass traverse with no top out. AB though, so pretty freaking hard, and matching her hardest send to date. I like giving UK limestone a ton of crap because I think it's funny, but also, like, to be extremely super duper fair, it all looks insanely hard, and I'd probably be there too if I lived over there. So I don't know, do with that info what you wish. Am I a hypocrite? Probably. Big congrats to Molly either way for the send. AB, man, AB. That's a V13 for the Americans. Sorry, kind of forgot about you guys there for a second. My bad. Next on the list of sends, I'm gonna do 2 Spanish climbers sending 9A 514D routes. The first, Ainhize Belar and her send of Obaba. She has been trying this thing on and off for about a year at this point. Apparently the route seemingly is almost always wet in some sort of way that I don't know. It's probably because it's in the north of Spain, and when is it ever not raining up there? Jesus. 7th of the grade for her, which is hugely impressive given she's also already sent 9A plus 515A. I am very, very, very excited about the prospect of seeing her put together another one of those, and I would not be surprised if she does so pretty soon. She is on a freaking tear at this point. The second person who I'm going to talk about, Marta Palou, and her send of La Gioconda, also 9A 514D. Her very, very, very first of the grade, and also becoming the 5th Spanish woman to manage to conquer the 9A grade, behind the absolutely legendary Josune Bereciarto, Mar Alvarez, Ana Belén Argudo, and Ainhize Belar. La Gioconda is a route in Rodellar, and this is the second female ascent of that route, first having been done by Ana Belén Argudo, who just, I mean, she's been killing it for the longest time, kind of like Ainhize. I mean, yeah, strong as hell. So, como siempre, enhorabuena a Ainhize y a Marta, but otherwise, let's move on. Okay, I'm just gonna breeze through these last 3 here because I'm tired, I'm sick, I'm kind of done right now. So, quick media recs. Go watch the Mad Rock team's latest bouldering film, just came out. Climbed some really, really sick stuff in Boone, North Carolina. It's pretty sweet, too. Austin Hoyt keeps comp climbing on real rock, which is annoying, but also, like, admittedly kind of cool. Dude just put up the hardest boulder in Central Park, like literally middle of New York City. It's 8BV13, which is honestly kind of cool that there's stuff that's that hard in the middle of one of the biggest cities in the world, like the most metropolitan metropolis ever. Austin's also trying Creature from the Black Lagoon, so hopefully he'll manage a repeat of that very soon. Then, Yanya launched a YouTube channel. Welcome, Yanya. I'm expecting her to get millions of subscribers. It's honestly incredibly surprising that it hadn't been done yet, and she's doing like behind the scenes stuff, and it's quite rad, so yeah, go check it out. More sends. Jorge Diaz Rubio putting together 2 boulders, Adularia 8C V15 and Hazel Grace 8B plus V14. Dude is strong. What can I say? Nothing. That's basically all I will say. That and Yuji Hoof, who has also managed to send the Hero of Ages V14/15. I'm pretty sure. I forgot. He did it in 3 sessions, which is pretty sweet. It was sent by Noah Wheeler a while back, which is cool. And speaking of whom, Noah sent a boulder called Big Arms about a week ago. Easy money. Lincoln Lake is... Yeah, Lincoln Lake. I think I saw Michael and could hear Quinn's voice in the video, so perhaps maybe a new tension, undeniable vibes situation is in the works. I don't know. Last but not least, Adam Shahar with yet another 8BV13 flash, this time of a boulder called Top Notch, which is top notch. Cool stuff from Adam as always. And yeah, that was supposed to be the last thing, but who the fuck is Lee Sung-soo? He just sent Dreamcatcher. So that's also pretty freaking cool. Okay, so that about does it, I think. Yep, that was some climbing news. As always, of course, thank you for watching, for listening to me throw out opinions at you for no discernible reason. All the thank yous. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, all that good stuff helps the show, etc., etc., etc. I will see you guys on Monday. Enjoy the weekend as always, but until I do actually see you, as always, go climb some stuff.